What is it about Vietnam? Is it the people? The architecture? Or is it the food, the street food, where people stand in line just to make up their minds if they got the right place or not? Or is it the city streets, where one's heartbeat accelerates just crossing the street and dodging between the motorbikes to get to the other side? Or is it the majestic beauty outside the cities that Vietnam has to offer that makes one dream of the next visit back to Vietnam? For us, it's all of it and much more. Hello, thank you for joining Annie and I today. We are in Hanoi, Vietnam. Our local guide Alan has shared that if one comes to Hanoi and doesn't visit Thuy Quan Lake, or also known as Hoan Kiem Lake, which translates to Lake of the Restored Sword, one really has not visited Hanoi. It'd be as if one went to San Francisco and didn't see Golden Gate Park. That would be a missed opportunity, so that's why Annie and I are walking the lakeshore to get a better perspective of Hanoi and Quan Lake. Alan also shared that there's a legend surrounding this lake and why Quan Lake is referred to as the Lake of Restored or Returned Sword. But I'll let Alan explain the legend.
Okay, Alan. So what's the history behind this lake?
The history, there's no history about this lake, but we have a legend. The legend has like this. During the war, right?
Yeah.
During the war, we was too weak to defend our enemy.
Oh, okay.
It was
Too weak.
Too weak. Okay. Yeah, so our king, he's quite sad, and he take the boat to this lake to reenact to find a way to defend our enemy. And suddenly, there was a turtle come up to the surface of water.
A turtle?
Yeah,
Okay.
and grabbed a sword in his mouth.
A sword?
A sword.
Okay.
Yeah. And then give it to him and said to him like this: use this sword to fight the enemy. It's like a magic sword, right?
Like the Excalibur.
Yeah. So the king, right? He took that sword and he defeated the enemy. And then another day he went back to this lake on the boat again. And the turtle come up again and asked him to return the sword.
Oh, like Excalibur.
Yeah, that's why we call Hoan Kiem. Hoan is mean return.
Return, okay.
Kiem is mean the sword. In Vietnam, we have a lot of legends.
Yeah.
People made a lesson to encourage people to fight against our enemy.
I see.
That's it.
Yeah.
In Quan Lake, there is a tower or a temple on a small island. The temple was named after an actual live turtle, which lived in the lake. Oddly enough, there was a parallel to the lake mythical legend and an actual living, breathing, swimming turtle. Here's Alan with more details.
Is that the pagoda that you're talking about?
Yeah, this one is look at the place where about 2 years ago there was a very huge turtle, about 100 kilos.
100 kilos.
Yeah. So
Old.
for a woman,
Old turtle.
yes, he's quite old,
Yeah.
but he's gone, he's died.
Yeah.
For a woman where that he went up to here for sunbathe, and this temple we call turtle temple,
I see.
where you can take rest.
In addition to visiting Hanoi's Quan Lake and its many temples, pagodas, and shrines, Annie and I knew that experiencing Hanoi's Hoa Lo Prison, otherwise known as the infamous Hanoi Hilton, during the Vietnam War, would affect us in some way. When traveling in general, one tends to plan and stay with upbeat and positive experiences. But when an event is so ingrained in a country's history, one must push beyond the discomfort and experience that event in some way, even though by just scratching the surface as a museum visitor. Trying to reach that deeper understanding with other countries and cities is no different with Vietnam and Hanoi. But in order to know Hanoi, one must also visit the Hoa Lo Prison. In 1886, the Maison Central Prison was built by the French, which detained and imprisoned many Vietnamese dissidents and political prisoners who wanted independence from the French government. Many Vietnamese prisoners were shackled, tortured, kept in solitary confinement, and were even killed by guillotine in order to maintain French rule. By 1954, the French had left Hanoi and the prison fell under the control of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Gravely, the Vietnam War had broken out on November 1st, 1955, which brutally pitted Communist North Vietnam against the Democratic South. Hanoi is located in North Vietnam. In August of 1964, Lieutenant Everett Alvarez Jr., a U.S. pilot, was the first U.S. POW that was sent to Hoa Lo Prison, along with many other U.S. war prisoners soon thereafter. In March of 1965, the United States officially entered the Vietnam conflict with the U.S. military invasion of Da Nang. Da Nang is located in the midsection of Vietnam. In October 1967, Senator John McCain, who at that time was a U.S. pilot on a bombing run, was shot down in Hanoi and sent to Hoa Lo Prison. Even with U.S. support negotiating with North Vietnam for an early release, John McCain voluntarily opted to stay with the other Hoa Lo U.S. prisoners. John McCain was finally released 5.5 years later on March 14, 1973, along with other U.S. prisoners. Sadly, as we know, Senator John McCain had passed away on August 25, 2018. With the Vietnam War well in the past, Annie and I experienced that people in Hanoi are getting on with their lives and dreams, especially for their children and families. They are building their small businesses, supporting tourism, and looking to a bright future. A young mother in her early 30s approached us while Annie and I were walking around Quan Lake. The mom asked us if we could talk to her two daughters in order for her daughters to practice their English. Keep an eye out for one of the daughters' t-shirts, which reads, "I love New York," built into the t-shirt design.
Where are you going?
What's your name?
My name is Annie. What is your name?
My name is Joan.
Show? And how about you? What's your name?
My name is Hoan.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 9 years old.
9?
9. That's,
This is my mom.
What's her
This
name?
is my sister.
Ah.
yeah. You speak English well.
Where are you from?
We're from the Philippines. Yeah.
What do you like?
Huh?
What do you like?
What?
What do you like?
What do I like? I like to travel and eat.
What do you
Is that goodbye?
How do you say goodbye?
like?
Goodbye.
Come on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You should say, have a good day.
Have a good day.
Our conversation with the young mom and her two daughters was obviously longer than what we had captured on the video. The experience with the young family put an exclamation mark as to why we came to Vietnam and validated to us that everyone needs to see Vietnam beyond the street food and motorbike-filled chaotic streets. It's the history, the people, the bright future ahead, and so much more that will entice one to return to Vietnam for another visit.
We never heard it before, but now it's very popular to tourists, not to us.
So Obama made it popular even though it's not a Bun Cha restaurant.
Yeah,
What do they serve there?
Bun Cha, but not a good place.
Not a good place.
Wrong place. The good place, we are going to there later.
Very
You can
good.
search on the internet.
Yeah. So thank you. So this is the famous Bun Cha that Obama came to.
No. Much better. I told you, he went to the wrong place.
Okay.
Now we are in a right place.
right
Good
place.
place. The best place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bun Cha translates to rice noodles for bun and cha for grilled chopped meat. In this case, at the Bun Cha Dac Kim restaurant, the bun cha was indeed awesome. The balance between the saltiness and sweetness of the fish sauce and sugar as the base blended well with the vermicelli, grilled pork, grilled meatballs, chopped chili peppers, and assorted vegetables. The hope is that we can find something similar in Manila. If anyone can make suggestion for an authentic Bun Cha restaurant in the Metro Manila area, your recommendation will be greatly appreciated. Gare and I would like to close out this video with some random shots of Hanoi and hope that you join us on our next Vietnam adventure when we go on an overnight cruise on Ha Long Bay. Till then, safe travels.